Okay, so if you've been trying to improve your productivity online, you've probably come across all these different techniques and tricks and methods that promise great results, but have probably worked for you to varying degrees. So in this video, I'm going to outline the simplest productivity technique that I know that doesn't require any app or spreadsheet or complicated method, and that has allowed me to get straight A pluses for the last 3.5 years of my studies in engineering without sacrificing time in the gym or in my relationships. So this technique is called Eat the Frog, and in this video we're going to talk about that technique and then 2 ways in which you can implement it. Let's first explain the technique. So Eat the Frog is best explained with an analogy, and basically the analogy is that given the choice to eat a frog before or after dinner, which would you choose? You have 2 alternatives. Are you going to pick up and eat this live frog before your meal, or are you going to wait until after to do it? So when you ask people this question, most people will say that they choose to eat the frog after because they can enjoy the meal, they can enjoy the dinner with friends or whatever it is, and then at the end of it, then they have to eat the frog. But they get to enjoy their dinner first. But here's the key idea with Eat the Frog. If you choose to eat the frog after dinner, are you actually going to enjoy dinner? Or for the whole dinner, are you going to be worried and stressed and thinking about that frog that you need to eat at the end of dinner? It's more likely that you're going to be feeling worried and stressed because you have a hard task that you're not looking forward to that you need to do. And now that might seem more familiar to you. By pushing that frog back, by pushing back how far you're going to eat it, you have now put yourself in a situation where for the whole period of time before, when you're supposed to be enjoying dinner, you now are not enjoying dinner because you are thinking about the task ahead of you. And so the right answer to whether or not you should eat the frog before or after dinner is that you should actually eat it before. Because if you eat the frog before, you got to knock off this big daunting task at the beginning, and then you can enjoy your whole dinner after with your palate cleanse. You don't need to worry about what's coming up ahead because you've already done that big task at the beginning. And so the whole lesson from the analogy for eating the frog is that you should choose to do hard things first. Because otherwise those hard things stay in your mind and they're going to sap your energy throughout the day. And by postponing harder tasks, you're not actually helping yourself because all that period of time before that hard task needs to be done, you're just going to be thinking about it anyways. And that's just not enjoyable. So the big lesson from Eat the Frog is that do the hard things first. Enjoy yourself after. Because if you do it the other way around, when you're trying to enjoy yourself first, you're not even going to be able to enjoy yourself because you'll be thinking about that hard thing, that hard task, that frog that you have later on. Okay, so with that, how can we actually apply this into daily use? Well, it's pretty easy. You just need to schedule the hard things early on in your day. So let's say you have an assignment due tomorrow, okay? Today, you have an option of when you're going to do this assignment. You can do it in the morning, you can do it in the afternoon, you can do it in the evening, right before it's due, and you need to choose, hey, when am I gonna do this thing? Now, many people would say, hey, I'm just gonna do it in the evening. And so they push it off until the evening and they enjoy their day. But here's a takeaway. Can you really fully enjoy that day if you know that later on you're going to have to do this work? Probably not. You're going to be thinking, oh, hey, I got to get home at 6 p.m. I got to finish this assignment. I can't stay late. You might be worrying if you have enough time to do it, if you're going to know how to solve all the problems, if you can do this, if you can do that. And all of a sudden, this time that was supposed to be enjoyable for you is now not enjoyable because you pushed your hard frog task later on in the day. And so, like with eating the frog before your dinner, the proper thing to do here is to move that hard task to the beginning of your day. Because if your task is at the beginning of the day, you can work through that task, complete it, and then you have the rest of the day that you would have spent anyways doing other things. You can actually enjoy those other things rather than be thinking about the task at hand because that task is already completed. And there's just such a big benefit to this because practically there's no downsides, there's just upsides. The work you need to do regardless, so you might as well do it earlier so you don't need to think about it when you should be doing other things or when you're trying to enjoy other things. Just consider this situation, okay? So this is the start of the day, okay? And this is the end of the day. And suppose we have this hard thing to do. Let's call it our frog task. And outside of the frog task, today you also want to maybe go to the gym. Maybe you want to see your friends. And maybe you have some other lighter work that you don't mind doing, okay? Now, depending on the order and the structure in which we do our activities for the day, that will have a large effect on actually our overall enjoyment of the day. So, like, for example, let's see if we put the frog task, the big task, at the end of the day, like most people do, okay? They don't want to do this, so they just say, hey, I'm going to do it at the end of the day. They push it to the side. They try to forget about it. Let's work with this, okay? So at the beginning of the day, maybe they do some light work, whatever that looks like. Then maybe they see some friends, and then let's make some room in here. Then they go to the gym. And then at the end of the day, they have their frog task. Here's the question. This beginning part of the day, which is supposed to be nice and enjoyable, will it really be as nice and enjoyable as it should be? Probably not, because this frog task right here When you're doing your light work in the morning, you're going to be thinking, oh, I need to do that big task later. When you're seeing your friends, you're going to be hanging out with them and trying to enjoy the time, but you'll just have a thought that pops up and say, oh, I have that big task later. You see this happen all the time, and it kind of ruins the moment. You can't fully be present because you have this big task later that you don't want to do. And again, you'll be at the gym and you'll be thinking, oh, I got to do this thing later. You won't hit the same workout. You won't hit the same weight. You won't be in such a good mood. And this whole period of time right here gets taken down a notch. It gets taken down by like 10, 20, 30% in enjoyment because you've decided to put your frog task at the end of the day. So all of this becomes a lot less enjoyable because of that frog task, because we've postponed it to the end of the night and now we need to think about it for the rest of the day. Now, of course, if you compare the alternative option where we move all of this to the end of the day and we put our frog task at the beginning, now look, okay? Now, we have some discomfort in the morning because we're getting up and we're doing this hard work, right? We're doing this work that we don't like. It's not particularly enjoyable. Maybe it's working on a lab report. Maybe it's doing some assignment. Maybe it's doing some reading. But here's the thing. It's the big task that you're going to get done for the day. And once you get done this big task, the rest of the day, well, it looks pretty fun. You get a little bit more light work done. Then you see your friends. Then you go to the gym. And now all of a sudden, instead of being in the previous mindset where you're either with your friends or in the gym or doing some light work and thinking, oh no, later on in the day, I have to do this big work, we can be in the mindset that, hey, right now I'm doing this difficult work, but later on in the day, I get to see my friends. Later on in the day, I get to go to the gym. And now just think about that mindset change. In one scenario, the whole day you're anticipating negatively what's to come later. And in that other situation, in the morning when you're going to do that big task, instead of anticipating negatively of what's to come next, you get to anticipate positively of what's to come next because it's things that you want to do. And so you can just see how powerful it is to schedule the difficult work at the beginning of the day. And this is why I think morning work blocks are incredibly effective, because after 2 hours of good, structured, intentional work in the morning, you get to be proud of that work and say, hey, I got that hard work done. And now the rest of the day, you can choose to do what you want with it. It might be more work. It might be going to the gym. It might be seeing your friends. But regardless, by doing that morning work, by getting that out of the way, the rest of your day benefits. Now, I do want to point out that this frog task doesn't need to be work. It might be work, but there might be other things for you that are actually more difficult. So your frog task might not be work. Maybe it's the gym. Maybe you're struggling to go to the gym, and that is your task that you're always postponing. Maybe it's, I don't know, doing your chores. Maybe it's a morning routine. Like maybe it's really hard for you to get up and journal and read and go outside. That might be the hard task for you. And so maybe that makes sense to stack right at the beginning. But regardless of what that task is, getting it done right at the beginning of the day makes the rest of the day that much more enjoyable. So that's the first and simplest way to apply Eat the Frog. You just apply it on a day-to-day basis by stacking your difficult, your hard tasks right at the beginning of the day. And because of that, the rest of your day goes so much better. But there's another way in which you can apply Eat the Frog. Basically, instead of applying it on a day-to-day basis, you just apply it over a week or over a month or whatever that time scale might be. Let me give you an example. So in my first year of engineering studies, I was in a statics class. It's like a beginner structural engineering course, okay? And that course would always drop weekly assignments. It was every day at, I don't know, call it Wednesday morning, okay? And so every single Wednesday morning at 9 a.m., let's call it, a assignment would drop, okay? And I would always, every week, I would open up the folder, I would see the assignment, and in 2 hours, I would have it solved. So this was every single week. I would have the entire assignment solved and uploaded within 2 hours. And keep in mind, we would always have 1 week to solve and submit these solutions. I was doing it in 2 hours. And so I found this to be just so helpful because never once during that entire semester of that first year in engineering did I ever worry about a statics assignment. Of course, for most people, that class tends to be pretty easy, but I never once needed to even think about, hey, I still have to get that assignment done. And so this was just so nice for me because midweek I'd be asking people, what are you working on? And often it'd be, oh, I'm working on that statics assignment. And I would just be thinking like, wow, I'm just ahead of the game here. I don't have to worry about this at all because it's done. And so this is just that Eat the Frog on a larger scale. By doing that work right away, by doing that assignment immediately when it came out, I now had 7 full days of unworried work where I wasn't wasting any of my energy or my brain thinking about that statics assignment because it was already done. I didn't need to worry about it. Now, if you compare that to someone who leaves that assignment to the last day, well, the first Wednesday where it comes out, they don't need to worry about it too much. Thursday, they probably don't worry about it too much. Friday, they probably don't worry about it too much. Now on the weekend, they're like, okay, yeah, I have that assignment to do. And on Sunday, they're thinking, yeah, I should get started on that assignment. It's coming up. And so, yeah, they've been thinking about it on the weekend. They don't do it, but they probably enjoyed the weekend like 5% less because they were thinking about that assignment. And now Monday comes along and they're thinking, okay, yeah, I really got to get started on this assignment. And so they've been thinking about it for a whole week, but it's not until Tuesday night where they actually get to sit down and actually get to do that assignment. And so just think about all the energy and all the like brain points that have been wasted during this week just thinking about that assignment instead of actually doing it. That energy could have gone anywhere. That could have gone to the gym, that could have gone to your friends, that could have gone to other work, but it's been wasted not even doing work, just thinking about the work and worrying about work that you haven't done. And so if you just instead did that work at the beginning, right when it came out, or like the day it came out or the next day, you save yourself so much. You don't have to worry about deadlines if you complete things well before the deadlines. And the energy that you would have wasted thinking about that deadline or thinking about that assignment, you have just saved and you can put that somewhere else. And you might be thinking, okay, well, I can't be wasting that much energy. It's just thinking about the assignment. It's not even doing it. But I'm telling you right now, it is a lot more than you think, because making decisions and thinking about things takes energy. Maybe not in a literal sense of like calories in and calories out, but if you're forced to make hundreds of decisions in a day, you will be fatigued and tired by the end of the day. And so every time you make the decision of to do the work or to not do the work, that is a decision that requires energy. If you choose to do the work and you say yes, well, you've made that decision once, you do the work and you're done. But if you constantly say no, 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 you said no to doing the work, 10, 20, 30 times across the course of a week, well, now you've made 30 decisions instead of one. And that 30 decisions is obviously more energy than the one. And plus, you get the energy wasted about having to think about the work and having to worry about the work and all of this other stuff. So you can really save yourself so much by just choosing to do that work first. And you don't need to just apply this for school. For example, I was trying to start running last year. And I would always say, hey, I'm going to run once a week. Eventually, I bumped this up to 2, 3. But at the beginning, I was just starting with once a week. And what do you think happened? Well, sure enough, the whole week would go by. I would think about it every once in a while. I would think, oh yeah, I gotta do that run, but I wouldn't do it. I would postpone it, and then Sunday comes, and all of a sudden, I need to schedule this run in. And maybe I wanted to do something else. Maybe there's other things I want to be doing on the Sunday, but because I had postponed it so far, I have to do it now. And I also get the added disadvantage of having had to think about that run the whole week. The idea of Eat the Frog also pops up in everyday life. Like, for example, let's say you live at home and your parents ask you, hey, can you unload the dishwasher today? Now, if you're smart, you go and do it pretty much as soon as possible, because you go and do it and then you're done in like 10 minutes and you can get back to your day-to-day life. But if you're not smart, you're going to just leave it until the end of the day. And every once in a while throughout the day, that thought will pop up into your head and you'll think, oh, I still got to unload the dishwasher later. And I know those like thoughts are small, but you need to do that work anyways. Why not do that work early and not have those thoughts, then do that work later and have those thoughts? It's just a overall net positive. That's pretty much it. You can see how you can apply Eat the Frog on a larger scale, like a week. You can see how you can apply it to not only your schoolwork, but to your life or your exercise. You can see how you can apply it on a day-to-day basis, which is probably the most effective way to do it. But overall, hopefully you can just see how it's far better to just do the hard things first and just enjoy the good things after. Because if you do it the other way, and if you put the work, the hard task after, well, now that time earlier that you should be enjoying is kind of tainted by the thought that you need to do that big task that maybe you don't want to do. So I hope you can get behind the concept and the idea of eating the frog, and that it can help you in your everyday studies.